Hi, Nat.
All right, I'm gonna get off the phone here then.
All right,
And,
babes.
I'm gonna get on and listen.
Yeah. I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Wait, I have my camera off. Hi, Nat.
Hey, hey, hey.
What's going on?
Monday night.
Oh, yeah.
They call it Monday Night Live.
Monday Night Live.
All right, we are live streaming any minute now. Let me put up the chat. Oh, okay. What did that do? Meeting group chat. Now that's new. Zoom is always doing something new. I don't know what that is. Well, we will see. Okay, we should be live in the group. Let's find it on Facebook. There it is. Oh, I see the comments. Yay, Karen and Rhonda is on there. Deb is on there. Deb said she can't find the link. It's inside the event. So go to the events tab of the group if you want to join the Zoom, and you can find the Zoom link in there.
That's how I found it.
Ditto.
And Michelle's here until Bronson steals him. Bronson, you're stealing Michelle away from me soon.
There's no stealing people. You can't have her. We won't give her up. She's ours.
Yours is at 8. Is that your coach one? Oh, yeah. She kind of works for him, so he kind of can steal her.
He needs to plan better, okay?
Okay, I guess I'll let you go do your job, Michelle. All right. Well, hello to anyone watching the replay who has no idea what these things are. Welcome. This is Natalie, the Keto Bikini Pro, here with another Monday Masterclass. These happen every single Monday inside my group, Keto Bikini Secrets. The ladies you're seeing here are members of my group who are not afraid to get on camera and say hello or join me on the Zoom. And we are also live streaming inside the Facebook group. So let's get into it tonight. This whole month, we're talking about training, lifting, weight training, exercise, whatever you want to call it. We are talking about how to put a program together or how to understand the program you've been given. Why? What does it have in it? What are the components? How did your trainer or coach figure out, or your gym figure out how they wanted you to train? And why did they put things together that way so that you can understand the ins and outs of why you're doing what you're doing, what it's meant to do for you. And if you want to try building your own program, my goal is that you could do that after watching all of these. So last week we got into it. We talked a lot about different types of sets in weight training. And the difference between circuit training and strength training with things like straight sets, supersets, giant sets, all kind of fun stuff like that. So if you missed that one, go back and watch that masterclass from last week. If you're inside the Facebook group, all of the replays are always posted inside the group immediately after, as soon as I get them uploaded. And you can find those later. I started doing these early last year, so I have over a year of weekly masterclasses in the guides section of the group. So at the top nav of the group on your desktop or your laptop, you'll see guides, and it's somewhere else on the mobiles, can't remember where, but go to the guides section of the group and you can literally go through every single masterclass by topic. So you can find topics that you're interested in, or you can even search in the group. Use the search bar in the group to search keywords and you will find topics and masterclasses I've done in the past. Or tag me or comment in the group and ask for a particular masterclass if you don't see it, and I'll put it on the schedule for the future. All of August, we are talking about training, so this series will continue. Tonight, I want to dive into, I got a couple of great questions in the chat before the event from Julie. Thank you, Julie, for contributing and asking. She wanted to know how to track her workouts. So in the next section, at the end of today's masterclass, I'm going to specifically talk about that. But first, I want to get into tonight considerations for designing your training split or schedule, basically putting together your workout routine. What are the things that I think about, the questions that I ask my clients when I'm designing a custom plan for them? There are a few questions I ask them so that I can figure out what's going to be best for them. So I'm going to teach you a little bit about the way I look at that, the way most trainers are probably going to look at it and consider how to put your essentially weekly plan together. We could talk a little bit of drill down into some concepts that go into that, like volume, frequency, and recovery. So I'll talk about all of those. And then if after we get through this, or if you have questions throughout about any of these things that I'm sharing, feel free to drop them in the chat. Those on the Facebook Live, feel free to drop it in the comments, and I will address those questions as we go. And if you have questions that are related but a little different, I'll hold those and I'll reply to those at the end. So if you have other questions about training, no problem. Drop those in there as well, and I will make note to also address those. And if I can't get to everything tonight, we'll put it into next week's as we continue this topic. All right, now that all the housekeeping is done, stay hydrated, my friends. Okay, let's dive in. All right, first things first. The first thing I always ask clients, and I want you to critically think about yourself, is how many days a week can you realistically and consistently train? So how many days can you devote time to going to the gym or working out at home or wherever you are training? Be realistic with your ability to do it consistently. Look at your calendar, look at your schedule, your lifestyle. Do you travel a lot? Do your weeks have a lot of crazy things, and one week is different from the next? And so you might be able to do it 5 days this week, but the following week you're going to end up skipping 3 workouts. Be real with yourself and say, okay, how much of this, if I was going to do it every single week for the next 4 months, and let's just say 2 to 3 months, because typically when I am scheduling or writing a program for someone, I'm thinking like 6 to 8 weeks. Usually I keep people on a program for 6 to 8 weeks at the most, unless they have life situations come up. Let's say they get injured or they do go on a vacation for a couple of weeks and we need to and they need to step back from it. So they didn't really get to finish out the full 6 to 8 weeks. They come back, I don't want to put them on a brand new program. I'll usually keep them on that program a little longer. But typically I like a good 6 to 8 weeks. So you have enough time to really master the movements, improve. Every week your goal is to improve, be able to lift more, do some more reps, improve something, increase something. And I think next week we'll get into the progressive overload, a deep dive, and talk about all the different ways you can do that. But for now, look at your schedule, look at your calendar over the next 6 to 8 weeks, next couple of months, and say, okay, over the next 2 months, what can I do every single week? Because your results and your progress are really going to depend on the consistency more than anything. So we start there. Most of my new clients, I will say, my new clients who are beginners or getting back in the game after an injury or illness or just being out for a while or just not training for a while. So those beginners are just getting back into it. I usually love a 3-day split. 3 days a week, and I like to do a full body 3 days a week. And we'll talk a little bit, we'll go into all the different types of splits you can think about. But in terms of the first question, availability, frequency. We're talking, I love a 3-day a week. Beyond that, typically once you've already been training consistently for a little while, you can do the 3 days a week. You're doing 3 days a week consistently. Now you can look at 4 days a week or 5 days a week and doing more of a body part split, which we'll get into what that might look like. So some people come to me and they're like, well, my schedule will allow 6 days a week, 7 days a week. I can do it every day. I'm like, okay, great. But now we have some other things we need to think about. So first things first, the how many days a week, what to consider there is your lifestyle, your schedule, your ability to do it consistently. And then we have to look at some other things, like recovery ability. You may have the availability in your schedule to train every day, but if you are an untrained individual, once again, meaning you're a beginner, or you've had some time away, you've had some time off of consistently exercising. If you are already exercising, even if it's not a lifting program, if you're cardio 6 times a week or classes 6 times a week, then you may be able to jump into a 4 or 5 day split with weight training and still be able to recover, but it will be a very different stimulus than what you've been doing. So once again, I would probably say, let's stick with a 3 day. And then on the other days, you can do cardio type things. So we'll get into some of the nuances there. But think about essentially your fitness level and your experience with training is another thing you need to consider when setting your training schedule. Here's the thing is your training your results will only be as good as your recovery. So you can hammer your body to death, but if you can't recover from it, you're not going to be able to grow. So we want to focus on what can you realistically do in the gym, and then how well are you able to recover from that? So that theme will continue to come up as we talk about this. Okay, so how many days a week? What is your availability? What is your level or experience with training? What other activities are you doing that you don't want to stop doing? That's another thing I run up against with new clients. They might love running. And my next question for them will be, well, how much running are you doing now? And how much will you allow me to take away from you? And still be happy. Like, can you still be happy about life with 2 days of running a week? Or is it mandatory you have to do 3 or 4 or 5? Then we're going to have a conversation, because I really don't think anybody should be doing that amount of cardio. If it's long distance running 3 or 4 or 5 days a week, that's going to directly compete against your goal of muscle building. So we've got to prioritize one or the other. Cardio is asking your body to pare down muscle. Lifting is asking it to ramp it up. So they're two completely opposite signals. And this is why I always encourage less cardio, or switching from cardio to primarily picking your priority. And I will always tell you strength training should be the priority. But if you're an athlete, if you do sports, if you are involved in group activities or group sports and you love the community aspect, I have ladies who have their Tuesday, Thursday classes and their high intensity cardio classes, but it is like, that's where their people are. They get a lot of joy from that. They get it's like therapy for them. And it is good. Cardio is not evil. It's not bad. We shouldn't never do cardio. It can do a lot of great things for our health, but it has to be tempered and it has to be done, appropriately. So if, let's say that's you're like, okay, I love going to the classes at my gym and they're more cardio, but okay, if I do it 2 days a week, I can still be happy. Then still, I think the 3 day a week would be great for you, because then you can fit in your 2 days of cardio and hopefully, likely still be able to recover from it. And then if you notice that your recovery is not happening, that's when you're going to have to be real with yourself and start to say, maybe the cardio has to go, or I have to switch to something else. Okay. I love that. The Bible says wicked is he who runs when not being chased.
That's great.
Running is probably the lowest on my list of options for cardio, if and when I have to do cardio. It used to be, I used to default to running, but it is like running sprints, mind you. I am a very petite lady and I am a dancer. I got legs for sprinting, not for a long distance. So I've never been a long distance runner. Never did that even for my preps. But I would do like sprints on the treadmill. And now this past prep, I switched to the bike, and it's so much better in terms of recovery and what my body is able to do. It just doesn't tear me up as much. And for those of you with bad knees, running on a treadmill, yikes. Yeah, or outside running, even worse. Very, very hard on your knees and your ankles and your feet and all of it. So there are definitely better options. But this is not a cardio class. I have a cardio masterclass. Check it out in the guides. All right, back to the splits. All right. Schedule first is the first question. Second is your experience level or fitness level. Third is what other activities are you doing that you want to continue to do? So how are you going to fit it all in? And the short answer here is, if you have to double up another activity with your training, or you're looking at your week and you're like, I want to do 5 days a week, and then you consistently find yourself missing days and then saying, well, I'll just double up tomorrow. My rule of thumb is never, ever double up whenever you can help it. Even competitors getting ready for the stage don't double up until we have to. And then when we are doubling up, it is pure training, weight training, and then we'll add cardio completely separately, not a class, not a body, a full body Tabata, not anything that's going to really beat us up, and we do as low impact as we can. We may do HIIT, but we're going to do like the bike or the elliptical or something that's a little bit easier on the body, and we add it in small increments, and we do it after our training, or we separate it from our training, and that doesn't happen right away. And it certainly doesn't happen in our building seasons. So if building is your goal, which really should be all of our goals all year round, whether we're in a fat loss phase or a gaining phase, always want to be building muscle. And to do that, we want to train 1 time a day with one modality. So if you're trying to hold on to other activities, I say this for the athletes out there, my CrossFitters and stuff. If you're going to be doing bodybuilding style training, don't also do a CrossFit the same day. That is asking for not being able to recover. Okay, and then number 4 would be, how much time are you able to devote to each session or each workout? That may change how many days a week you're training. Let's say, you're like, okay, she said beginners 3 days a week. Cool, that's what I'm gonna do. And then you're like, but I only have 30 minutes. Now it's gonna be a little harder, because in 30 minutes, there's not as much you can do, only 3 days a week. So if all you have, or if you're really, really busy and all you have is 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and you got to do something, that's when I would say, if small workouts like that, you could do 6 days a week. And then we'll talk about the splits and how to split that up. But I've had, clients who've ended up with really crazy schedules, and I switched them to 6 days a week, because now they can do shorter workouts and they can get them out of the way in the morning or whatever time of day, and it works for them much better. So it's interesting to think about it, that, oh, the busier you are, more days actually works. Well, yeah, if you're short on time. So think about that too. Number of days a week, and also how long in duration you can devote. And then number 5, the final and the most fun part for bodybuilders and bodybuilding coaches, areas of your body that you want to sculpt. So this is where we program for what our clients want to look like. We literally can create the shape that we want by selecting and organizing the split and the exercises and the focus muscle groups the way we want to. For bikini, it's very simple. Shoulders and glutes. Shoulders and glutes are the two big ones for bikini. And bodybuilding, in all categories, all divisions, they always say shows are won from the back, because the back conditioning is actually harder to get at a certain level than the front conditioning. So this being, for the ladies, the glutes and hamstring area. It's what we call the glute ham tie-in. You see on the most conditioned athletes, this muscle under the glute that runs down into the hamstring, and it is very pronounced. And that does not get pronounced unless you train it and you're low enough in body fat that you can see it. And that is a very difficult thing to achieve, and it sets apart the best from the rest. For some other categories, so for figure and for a lot of the men's categories, so the more muscle focused categories, the back, the lat spread, the wideness of the back, and the shoulders, and the definition across the back makes all the difference. And for bikini, we want to widen the back to an extent to make the waist look smaller. So we train the back to get that hourglass, exactly, Juliana, that hourglass shape. So we want to build the glutes, build the back the right way, and build up the shoulders. And now we're creating this hourglass look. And for figure, they call it the X-frame look. So, and training all of the shoulders so that you get a full capped look in the shoulder, not just the front and the side, but that back delt is really, really key. So the ladies that are in my shred that are doing the intermediate advanced program are actually doing my program, my current training split. And they are doing legs 3 days a week, and they're doing shoulders twice a week. And then we have a full back day, and we have biceps mixed with delts on one day, shoulders on one day, and we have shoulders mixed with legs on another day. We have glutes mixed with chest. So I'll get into the splits in a moment, but essentially there is no limit to the options of how you can split up your body. There's so many different ones, but I'll share with you some of the main basic ones that you're going to find out there. When you see programs out there, they're usually following one of these. Okay, so we talked about frequency, all 5 areas with that. So areas of focus would be that number 5. What body parts do you want to bring up? What body parts do you want to bring down? Another one with bikini that we don't need to train heavily is the chest. That is something that if you're doing figure or physique, women's figure or physique, where it's more muscular, they want to see the muscles, they want to see separation, they want to see symmetry, chest is going to matter more. And then the way you train your abs, we don't want to build a thicker waist in bikini, but for figure, thicker waist is fine. Wellness, thicker waist is fine. Wellness is all about the legs and the glutes more than anything else. So for each category, these competitors are training for their category to bring up certain body parts that the judges are going to be looking for. That's the cool thing about this sport. That's what's so fun about it. All right, let's get into the splits. So the idea, let me look at it, make sure there's no comments in here. Okay, cool. So far, so good. No question. Real quick, before we get into splits, one thing to consider as you're thinking about this schedule and the split that you want to choose is what is scientifically proven to be ideal for muscle gain is a certain number of sets per body part. We talked about the sets last week, right? There are lots of different ways you can do sets, but we're talking each set per body part. Ideally, for building muscle, it's kind of a big range, but anywhere from 10 sets to 20 sets per body part per week. So what that might look like if you're doing, let's say, one workout, let's say you're doing a leg day and you have 4 or 5, let's go. Yeah, 5 exercises, 3 sets each would mean you're doing 15 sets for legs. That's very simple because we're putting everything into the legs category. We're not breaking it up and saying, well, how many sets per quads and how many sets per hamstrings? And so you can dive down and get even more granular about specific areas, like how many sets per glutes, how many sets per calves, and all of that. Or you could just say, you know what, let's start simple and say, okay, legs. 15 sets would be 1 workout a week for legs with 5 exercises and 3 sets per exercise, or 4 exercises and 5 sets per exercise would be 20. So that's kind of how to think about that. So imagine if you're doing the 3 days a week, and my recommendation for a 3-day-a-week split would be a full body split, 3 days a week, separated by at least a day of rest in between each. So I love to schedule people Monday, Wednesday, Friday, full body. That way you have Tuesday, Thursday, you could do some low impact steady state cardio. You could do a HIIT class on one of those days. I don't recommend a whole lot of HIIT in 1 week, but once or twice would be fine. And then you'll still have your rest day or 2 rest days. You could do 1 or 2 full rest days in the week. So if you're doing that, if you're doing 3 days full body, each body part is not going to have as many sets per day as if you were splitting up the body. You know, let's say you only had, like a lot of guys do, a chest day. And they're going to do maybe 5 or 6 exercises just for chest. And, you know, bodybuilders 4 or 5 sets, maybe even more. That could be 20 sets just for chest on 1 day of the week. And then they might go back and do that again. So that's a lot of volume. But let's say you're doing a full body day, you might have 1 chest exercise on each day. And if you do 3 or 4 sets, then you're only hitting chest for 3 or 4 sets for the, well, if you're doing, let's see, if you're doing 1 per day, that's 3 days. So 1 exercise for the chest, 3 days. And let's say it's 3 sets per exercise. That's 9 reps. That's 9 sets for the week for chest, which would be fine for bikini because we don't need a ton of volume on chest. So 10 to 20 sets is ideal for muscle growth, but 9 is just fine. Let's use that as the, there's a good little rule of thumb reminder. 9 is fine. For the muscles you don't need to build as much as others. Christina, what's up? You got a question?
Yeah. So wait, so if you do like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, full body, right? Then Tuesday, Thursday, would that be more of like a focus? Like if you focused on a different, like,
If you're doing,
like
if you're doing
Thursday.
full body 3 days a week, I would not do an additional split separate from that unless you are advanced, well-trained, and recovering really well. Because now you're adding on top of exercise muscles that were just worked the day before, you're working them again. So now you're going to reduce your recovery time. So those muscles may not be ready to be trained again.
Okay.
So for
you
a
would
full
do,
body, that's a good question, because for a full body split like this, 3 days a week, you're not training any body parts on the other 4 days of the week. So you could take 2 or 3 days a week and do some cardio.
okay, that was my question.
But I
Okay.
wouldn't do 3 or 4 days a week. I wouldn't do 2 or 3 days a week of high intensity cardio, because now your body's still not recovering. So I like, if you're going to do a 3-day-a-week full body, do a low impact, steady state, like an outdoor walk, something that's not intense, but it's more active recovery on the other days of the week.
Could you do the bike?
Yeah, I like that a lot. As long as you're not doing like a spin class, That's different than like a recumbent bike. Yeah. Stationary
No,
bike. or-
but my gym does have a bike, you know, so I like to do,
yeah.
because I don't run because my knees hurt. I
But-
can't run.
Miss Christina,
I don't run.
this conversation. I
Yeah.
don't be doing any cardio.
Yeah. So I don't mind just like, or like the row machine. Could you do that? Like,
Yes, in theory, you could do that, but not you. I don't want you doing cardio. I want you lifting.
can I
So
walk?
I would say one of these other splits I'm getting ready to talk about would probably be better for you because you are building. We are building.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this next part is going to be for you.
Oh,
And
got
any of my other folks who are trained individuals, already active, already exercising or training consistently, and really want to focus on the building. All right, so let's get into splits because really a full body routine is not really a split, but it can be a routine for sure. All right, so splits themselves, and I didn't write notes, so I'm going to write quickly so I don't lose my train of thought. Some of the most popular splits. All right, so two super popular splits that you're going to see out there on the interwebs. Number one is our upper lower split. This is a very simple upper body day, followed by a lower body day, followed by an upper body day, followed by a lower body day. The cool thing about this is there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I personally love when I'm programming for clients, I love to do 4-day a week, upper, lower, or lower, upper. I like to start with lower because I start Monday with a leg day. Hit it hard. So I like to do lower, upper. Wednesday is a break. So let's say we're doing Monday through Friday, right? Lower, upper, rest, lower, upper, rest, rest. So you're getting 4 days of work, 3 rest days. On those rest days, once again, you can put in some cardio if that's where you're at. The cardio is going to be for my people who are really focused on fat loss. You can put in cardio on that Wednesday, on that 3rd day, and on the 5th day, and then have a full rest day on your 7th day. So, and I always say, whatever split you are doing, please, for the love of God, at least have 1 full rest day every week. That means you are not even doing cardio. You're not even doing a walk outside, like you are resting. Because the point, and we'll talk about this probably next week, we'll talk about intensity. If you're doing this right, you're gonna need the rest. So, upper lower split. Here's the cool thing about upper lower split. You can do this so many different ways. What I have done as an athlete, I learned my body really well over the years. And I think I mentioned this last week, I take rest days when I need them. I can read my body, and if it's not ready to go again, I don't go again. So let's say you have a 4-day split like this, and you have an upper lower, and then another upper lower. Let's say you do your upper lower, you take your first day, you do your next upper. Yeah, you could literally do upper lower rest, upper lower rest, upper lower rest, upper lower rest. None of these splits have to be like, oh, within these 7 days, I have to do this. So I like to take my training program, and mine is a funky split, like I just talked to you about. It's 5 days of lifting plus a abs and calves days, and it's all these random muscle groups put together. So that could be 6 days a week, but I rarely do it in order like that 6 days a week and then take a 1-day rest. I will take a rest in between, I love 2 days on, 1 day off. That works really well for my body. Or sometimes I need a day off in between each session. and I was recovering from the Rona, it was a day off in between. I wasn't able to do 2 days in a row. So I would do my lower and then take a rest, and then do my upper and take a rest. So you could totally do it that way if you're not worried about how it's going to look on the calendar. You can push them off and just keep doing them in order like that. And that's the way I tell my clients. If you're going to, I always give them their schedule, and then I say, well, you can move these around on the schedule. Just don't change the order around. Don't skip it and then start over next week with the first one again, because then you're going to miss out on certain exercises for your body parts that were designed for that. So do them in order, keep them in order. And if you need to push them off, just take an extra rest day and push it off, and keep going in that order. Always start back with the one you missed. So the way you could do a upper lower is you can say, okay, I'm going to do full upper body, every single upper body muscle group, chest, back, shoulders, biceps, triceps on every upper day. And I'm going to do hamstrings, glutes, calves, quads, all of my leg muscles, all on lower day. And then the next 2 in the same 4-day training split,
Right, you can
I
talk.
might do different exercises for all of the
I
upper
want to tell
body.
you something really bad.
Yeah, you are. I'm gonna mute you real quick. So you could do it that way. You could do all of the muscles in the upper body twice a week with different exercises each time. And we'll talk next week about exercise selection and how to choose exercises, and when you may want to, like if you did this on the first day, do this on the next one, that kind of a thing. So you're not hitting all of the angles of the muscles exactly the same way every single time. And then you could do a full lower the whole next time, both times. Or you can make it a little more targeted than that. You can have an upper day that focuses on, here's one that I like to do with clients. I have 2 different ones. Oh man, I have a whole bunch of different ones. But what's the one that I really, okay, I do a lot of like arms and shoulders together. So you might get biceps, triceps, and shoulders. Or shoulders, bis, and tris is what I usually call it. You might do that on one of your upper days. And then your other upper day would be back and chest. And maybe you could throw some abs in with that one, core. Right, so you have chest, back, abs, shoulders, bis, tris. So now you're hitting 3 muscle groups on each of the 2 days, and you can do more volume per muscle group on each day, still to try to get you to that 10 to 20 sets per week per muscle group. Or you could do all 5 upper body muscle groups on both days. And you're going to do less volume for each on those days, because you're not going to have as many dedicated exercises per muscle group. That makes sense, hopefully. And then the same thing with the legs. You could have a quad and hamstring day. And then you could have a hamstring and glute day. I like to do that a lot of the time with my clients. I will do exactly that split. I actually have a program I've used with a lot of clients that is exactly that split. It is the chest, back, abs on one day, shoulders, bis, tris on another. And then the lower body, I'll do like a hamstrings and quads, and then I'll do a hamstrings and glutes. So you're getting, usually most of my ladies are quad dominant. So the quads are going to want to take over first, and they get built easier. It is harder to build the hamstrings and the glutes. So I usually like to give them a little more attention. Plus, remember, bikini is all about the glutes. And training the hamstrings also trains the glutes. It's all the posterior chain. So you're going to be getting a little activation on both when you do those kinds of exercises. So there's an example of your upper lower and a couple different ways to do it. The next split that I talk about is similar in that, let's say instead of shoulders, bis, and tris, chest, back, and abs, you want to do back and biceps on one upper body day, and shoulders, chest, and triceps on another upper body day. That is what we call push-pull.
Yeah.
And that's the next split I'm getting ready to talk about, is what we call push-pull legs split. This is traditionally done as a 3 or a 6 day split. So you could train push muscles, pull muscles, and leg muscles each one time per week with a lot more volume, or 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, to do each of those days twice in 1 week. And some people, but I think this is a little more advanced, will do 6 days in a row. Push, pull, legs, then a full rest day. But that is a lot for most people. So I would probably say either start with 3 days or do the 4-day upper lower split. And then work your way up to something like a push pull legs 6 days a week. That would be a lot. But what push pull legs looks like, or probably even more likely you would see it as push legs pull or pull legs push. You can do it that way in terms of the order of when you're doing the leg day in there. It could be any of those. But push, what do we mean by push? The push muscles are the muscles that work when you're pushing things away from you. So that's going to be your shoulders, your chest, and your triceps. They work really well together. They're all going to get a little activation when you're doing the others. So they're great groups to work all together. And then back and biceps work together. So that's going to be your pull muscles. And those are the muscles that are working when you're pulling things toward you. Bicep curls, pulling it toward you. Rows for your back, pulling it towards you. And you can also work some of your rear delts on your pull day with things like rear delt flies or reverse flies, stuff like that. I always, delts, like as much as we can include delts, I usually always include some rear delt work on my back days. So those are like the two biggest, most popular splits. With the push-pull legs, I think this is more popular and I think more beneficial for men. Usually for my ladies, I favor the lower body. They're all favoring the lower body. We all usually want to build, women want to build our lower body more than our upper body. We're not trying to be Hulk. The guys spend a lot of time on their chest, their biceps, their shoulders, their back. They want to build that big frame. So push-pull legs, you're doing more upper body work in a week than you're doing legs. I like the upper lower because it's even. And then as we get more advanced than that, and we go to like a 5 or a 6 day split, and you can split up the body parts however you want, this is where we get into things like my current split, which has got me training legs 3 days a week and certain upper body parts more than others based on what I need to work on and the physique we're trying to build. So let's say, trying to think of some of my other, actually another split I really like to do. I don't even know what I would call this, but it would kind of be a step up from the upper lower and I think better than the push pull legs. It's similar to push pull legs, but I'll do 3 days of legs and 2 days of upper body. So it's a 5-day split, but we're giving more time to the legs. And when you do this, you can do an anterior chain day, which is going to be that quads focus, a posterior chain day where you're focusing on hamstrings, and then a posterior chain day where you're focusing on glutes. You can go straight quads, hamstrings, glutes, 3 different days. And then you sandwich your upper body days in between. So you would have, let's say, a quad day and then an upper body, and then actually I'd probably go hamstrings, upper body, quads, upper body, and then glutes. And then a rest day. And because that's 5 days, you can do 2 rest days, and you can either do them in a row, or the way I like to do it, after my first 2 or 3 days, I'll take a rest day. And then after my next 2 or 3 days, I'll do a rest day. I was on a split like this. I've been on a 5-day split for the last year since I've been with my coach. We've been on 5-day splits. And then he'll tell me to just do another day, throw in abs and calves wherever I want to. Either as a separate 6th day, which most of the time that's what I like to do. I'll do abs, calves, and cardio all together on the 6th day. But yeah, I love a good three leg days, 2 upper body days. And that's what you're going to find if you look up like wellness competitor training splits. And even bikini, a lot of the time bikini will do 3 leg days.
That's what I do.
Because I talked about the ideal number of sets per week, but the other separate from that ideal frequency is 2 to 3 times a week per muscle group. Even if volume is equated, you're going to get better results training muscle groups 2 times a week or 3 times a week versus just 1. But once again, if you're new, 1 is going to be great. Do 1 for a while per body part until you can build on that. But full body is fine to do 3 times a week because you're going to be doing lower volume per muscle group. You're not going to be like completely hammering a muscle group and not being able to go back 2 days later. Oh, Deb, sorry, you have to head off. I will see you next time, and I know you'll watch the replay. Feel free to ask any questions. All right, so that's basically the splits for the most part. Let's talk about what I like to call the bro split. I trained with a bro split, what I would consider a bro split, for 2 years, maybe 3 years. This is how I trained. The year I got my pro card, and the year after that when I went competed in my first pro show. It is a lot of volume, and it is basically a body part a week. So this, I call it the bro split because this is the old gym bros. This is what they used to do. Chest day, back day, shoulder day, biceps day, quad day. Like you would have a specific day for each muscle group and you would hammer the hell out of it. And I worked with an old school, Christina, you would appreciate this, New York, an old school New York, absolute massive giant of a guy. If you guys want to give him some love on social media, I haven't talked to him like, oh God, it had to be a couple years now. Tony DiCostanzo, and Italian New Yorker, old school bro split, but man, this put a lot of muscle on my body. Like I should do that for Transformation Tuesday tomorrow and show like my body before we started working together and after. Yeah, this guy's awesome. He goes by Keto Shreds on Instagram. That's how I found him, actually.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, you might know him if you get in there and see. I know he still does local training up there, and he does a lot of speaking.
God.
But he's been keto for a long time. And yeah, it was like, I had like 7 or 8 exercises per day, so each body part, and a lot of sets. Like some of them would be 6 sets, some would be 5, some would be 4, some would be 3, but it was a lot of volume. I should go back and like calculate what the volume was. I might have been getting 20 sets per body part, and it would just be on one day. So that was crazy. And that's where I learned to take the rest days when I needed them. The cool thing about that though, when I mentioned like clients that I put on a 6-day split, this is the kind of split where you can do this. You don't have to do as much volume as I was doing. I mean, I was trying to become a pro athlete, right? You could do a lot less volume, but still get enough. You could easily get, if you're doing one body part, you can easily get 10 sets in one session. You know, like I said, if you just have 5 exercises with 3 sets each, that's 15 sets right there. So if you do that for one body part, that's not going to take a long time. So you could do that if you're shorter on time. And then the really great thing about that is, if your back is bothering you, you can swap it with a shoulder day. Now, swapping around and moving around your workouts, it doesn't matter as much. I did a lot of that for those 2 years. If I needed an extra rest day, then I could double up too. This is the cool thing when I talked about never doubling up. If you're doing one body part, you know, a lot of the time I would have, yeah, I could put biceps with back. and create a pull day. And now all I had to do is look at my program and say, well, I'm just going to cut down the volume. I won't do as many sets, or I'll cut out an exercise for each. So I'm not doing the same amount of volume and doubling it up on a day, but I can still get those body parts worked this week and do a little bit less volume. So it gives you a lot more flexibility with your workouts. You know, like I said, if I have back pain, then I could switch my back day and do chest that day instead, or do shoulders that day instead, and push off the back day and move things around as needed. So that's what I like about those old bro splits. There's just a lot of flexibility there. Christina, this may be a good one for you to keep you away from the cardio.
I haven't really been doing cardio. I've just been walking. You'd be proud of me.
Okay, good. I like it. Leisurely walking, I hope.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Celeste is on. I haven't seen you in a while either. Oh, miss you. Let's see my girl. Even though I can't really see her face, but I saw a really cool picture of her on a motorcycle in the group last night. Thanks to Mary for posting about the motorcycles. You know, Bronson used to own one, but maybe I'm grateful that that was in the past, because I'd be maybe a little worried about him if he still had one. All right, let's talk then. Okay, that's pretty much the splits right there. We've got upper lower, we've got push pull legs, we've got a 5-day split with 3 leg days and 2 upper. We've got a bro split, which is 6 days each body part per day. And if you want to do that with more leg days, like at one point in time, Tony gave me extra glute day, then we would double up and do biceps and triceps on a day, because you only have 6 days. So it's a little harder. You're like, okay, how am I going to fit all this in? But once again, since we don't need a lot of chest, you can put chest and triceps together on a day or something like that. So it's kind of fun to do the 6 days. All right, let's see. Any questions about splits? Hey, Tiffany, you're here too. Yay, my girls are here.
So when you're doing, like, if you're doing like 3 leg days and 2 upper body days, how many exercises are you doing on those leg days? Like 5 exercises?
It could be, it's really different based on, like, you want to look at where you're starting from, right? So the first thing I would say is, like, what have you been doing? And not jumping up a whole lot of volume all at once. Like, if you've only been doing 3 exercises per body part, like, don't jump up to 5 or 6, you know what I mean? My current split, I think some days I have 4 exercises, and some days I might have 5. Let me look at it real quick. I mean, a good 4 or 5
Yeah, that's what I
is really comfortable. It's not like a ton of volume. And then
like
you could focus more on really quality movement, intensity. You can add more sets to focus on certain exercises. And, like, you have the big lifts, like the big leg lifts, like deadlifts and squats and lunges. I have a program I like to put a lot of my well, probably maybe almost every client has been on this program at some point in time, where I'll do it's a full body 3-day split, but each day is dedicated to one of those big ones. So the legs on one day is deadlift focused, the legs on another is squat focused, the legs on another is lunge focused. But that's just one way to do it. There's others where, you know, like the anterior versus the posterior exercises that activate the quads more, and it's a mix. And then exercises that work the hamstrings or the glutes more, and that's a mix. But 3 leg days is kind of cool. You could definitely have one where you're focused on improving your deadlifts, any variation of deadlifts, and that way you can really dedicate those fewer exercises, but with more quality movement, higher weights, more reps, more sets, and give it more. But yeah, this is interesting. So yeah, my actual dedicated leg day right now, I only have 4 exercises.
Okay.
And about 4 sets each, which would get me to 16 sets. But that could be a lot, you know. For beginner intermediate, a lot of the time I keep people on 3 sets of each exercise for a while, or maybe only 4 sets on certain ones, like the big ones, like 4 sets of squats. But the accessory stuff, I might just do 3 sets. And then some of these other days, like the combined days, like my biceps and delts, for example. No, that's not a good, well, that's an upper body, but let's say a lower body. I have a legs and shoulders day. So I have 4 exercises for my legs on that day and 3 exercises for my shoulders on that day. So anywhere from like 3 to 5 is really good. And then as you need more and you get to that point, and I think when we talk about hypertrophy, it'll really help understand all this next week. But that's where you can start going to like 6. Or when I was working with Tony, I was up to like 7 or 8, but that's a lot. So unlikely to need really that much.
Okay, thanks.
Sure thing. And then you let your body be your guide. Are you recovering?
Yeah.
And then you can always look at like, okay, volume. I think we'll get more into volume next week. All right, let's answer the question from Julie, which was about tracking your exercising, your workouts. So you can go super old school and have a notebook, pen and paper, and write it down each day, each week, and then you can look back at last week and you can write all your notes and go old school like that. You can go spreadsheet, create a spreadsheet and use that, Google Drive, Google Sheets, or Excel. You could print it out and bring it with you, or you could take pictures of it on your phone so you remember what you did last time. Or you can use, if you're using Google Docs, Google Sheets, I love that because you can pull it up on your phone. You can do what I do. It's like pen and paper, but it's on the phone. I use my notes app. The training is on here. And I copy paste the whole thing from the last time I did it. Like today was back day, so I scrolled down to where my last back day was. I copy and pasted the whole workout, and I had stars, and I wrote increased weight, you know, so I could see where I was increasing weights. And like there's some weeks I regress, and I'll write regressed. And then if there's any notes, like I wrote, this time I didn't have grips. I didn't have my grips with me, and I regressed on the weights. But last week, I had my grips with me and I increased the weights. And so that helps me remember what was going on. So I love the notes for that. I'm super like simple with it. But some people love to use apps to track their training. The app is going to do all that calculation for you. So it'll tell you, you hit a new PR or total volume lifted and all of these cool metrics. And so if you like to see that and you don't want to have to do that work yourself, and usually most of the time they include places where you can include comments and stuff like that. There are some free apps out there that are just for training logs type of thing. A couple that are really popular with people I know, the Strong app and JFit, J-E-Fit. Those 2 are both like in the App Store. I think they're on both Apple and Android. And there's others. There's a lot of training apps out there that are just for logging your workouts that you can use. And then like my clients, they get their training program in my app and they get to track it right there. And for my shred ladies, they do that as well. And for y'all for clients that graduate from me and let's say they're good, and so they no longer need coaching, but they still want to stay in the app to track, I just charge a fee for that and they can stay in the app and continue to do their own thing and put their own workouts in so they can use it like those other ones. So that's basically as simple as it is with tracking. And Julie, if you're still on, I know she was on earlier, if you have any follow-up questions about the tracking, let me know. Drop them in the chat. Does anybody else have like favorite apps for that or ways that you track you want to share? or any other questions related to tonight's topic? I think I might actually end in an hour tonight. Who am I? When does that happen? Yeah, Celeste uses Train Heroic. I was going to mention that because that's the one that Bronson has his programs on. And Train Heroic is interesting in that, and there are others like it, where you sign up for it and then you can choose a program to follow. Yeah, she said, I think you have to choose the programs to use. Yeah, you have to sign up for a program that a trainer has on that app. And then you pay for that, I guess, Celeste. Yeah, I think you have to pay for that. And then you can use that to track your stuff. I think actually Trainerize does that as well. So like my programs, I suppose I could totally do that. Oh my gosh. May have just come up with something, except that I'm getting ready to switch from Trainerize to Everfit. But Trainerize, like that's the app that I'm currently using with my private clients. And then my shredders are over in Everfit. And my plan is to move everybody over to Everfit. But with Trainerize, for instance, it asks me if I want to sell my programs on the marketplace. And so if I do that, then basically you could go and search for my stuff, or I could give you a link and then you can sign up for my program without coaching, but I haven't offered that. So all of my stuff that's on there is packaged with coaching right now. Deb asks, how is Everfit working? Are you liking it better? For a lot of things, yes. For the group communication, I like it a lot better, which is why I wanted to test it out with the shred. Because in Trainerize, my private clients have a group text, but it is literally just a group text in a line format. You can't reply to people. You have to tag them to say anything to them. And so you can't really keep conversations going. In Everfit, it's more like Facebook. It's not as functional as Facebook in that replying to someone who's replied to you multiple times is a little bit tricky, but it is definitely better. It's a step up from Trainerize for sure. The programming, like from my end, creating the programs is a lot simpler in there too. I thought I might like their exercise library better. So far I'm not, so I'm importing a lot of stuff from YouTube, but eventually it will all be me. So regardless of where I'm hosting everything, that's my next goal, is to create all my own training videos.
So is there actually a time that these things get easier?
Like the workouts?
Yeah, I still can barely get to the floor to do them, but yeah. I mean, it says at the end, how was it? Oh yeah, difficult as hell. But it feels great that I've done it, but hopefully there's a point where
Yes, it will get easier. You will find yourself not dreading it.
No, it won't, because you're going to make it harder. As soon as she gets good at it, you're going to make it harder on her. Stop lying, Natalie.
Well, that's the perfect lead into next week, progressive overload.
I'm increasing my reps. Like well, I learned that like at the last 3, I always put in a couple of extras on the last set. So I always do a couple of extra reps.
That's awesome.
And I'm pushing it. Now is this actually, I'm actually feeling a weird separation between muscles and fat now. Like I'm starting on my knees. I can see fat and muscle, like they're separating. Is that the way it's supposed to happen? It feels weird and foreign. I've never felt that before.
Okay, what you're talking about is definition, my lady.
Yeah.
You're getting.
But I got this jiggly thing.
It's awesome. You're gonna see lines where you never saw lines before.
Oh, yeah.
That's the cool stuff about all this. I love it.
It is excellent.
Now, my other Deb T, is asking, how often can you do the program? Like 8 weeks now? How long a break before another 8-week program? I will go straight from one into the next with clients. So we finish a phase and then I do a next phase for them. That might be another 6 to 8 weeks. And that's a good, I should add that to one of the next master classes to talk about going from one to the next to the next. Like, what do you change and why do you change it and that kind of a thing. So I'll add that in there. But yeah, you don't necessarily have to take a break, but there was something called deloads, and I actually did a masterclass on deloading. And this is the concept of essentially kind of taking a break. You don't have to stop the program. You can do a deload on the last week of your 8-week program before you go into the next one. So it's essentially, it's a week that you're not pushing for PRs. But there's a lot of different ways to do deloading. And so check out that masterclass and that'll give you some ideas there. So, awesome, I love these questions. You guys are getting it. All right, I think that's it for tonight. Hope to see you all back here next Monday, same time, same place.
Thank you, ladies. Good night. Love you.
Happy Monday. Have a great week.
Good night. Love you more. Make it weird.
You have a good week.
Bye.